I got Mr. Freeman, Bill Freeman coming out. He's going to talk a little bit. Now, this is something...
In this video that I'm going to be talking about, I have to give the elders their flowers. And the tribe that I'm a part of, the Skarure, Woccon indigenous tribe of North Carolina, Cape Fear Indians, I have to talk about the elders real quick because they're so important to this community and to tribes as a whole. And I feel like sometimes the older folks get no recognition and no one really pays attention to them, but they are so important. And I kind of consider them as legends because, first of all, a lot of people don't even make it to their 70s and 80s and 90s. Like, you got people passing away at freaking 20 years old and younger. So they deserve their flowers. So I'm going to talk about them in this video just a little bit. So my experience so far being down south in North Carolina the past few days, we had a harvest gathering. It's kind of like a powwow, but they call it harvest gathering. And this trip, I got to meet and talk to so many people. And some of the people that really caught my attention was the elders. And I was so surprised. Maybe because I'm from New York and I'm used to like a lot of rudeness. But when you go down south, it is, even though there's rude people everywhere, there's drama everywhere. For some reason, down south, they really have that southern hospitality, very polite, mannerisms on point. And it just blows my mind every time when I go down there. So when I went down there and I got to talk to some of the elders, I was so surprised how welcoming they were. Like, this particular guy that I am going to show in a clip, I don't know, I forgot his name, but I know his last name is Freeman, so I'm gonna call him Mr. Freeman. So Mr. Freeman, him and his family still owns a part of the beach in Carolina Beach. And it's a shame because certain people are trying to buy them out, but luckily they still own a certain part of the beach. It's native owned, black owned, whatever you want to call it. And when we was there was one particular night where we all gathered to do like a bonfire, and I never did that before. And just to see how happy he was to see us all there, like distant relatives all coming together and talking about the migration when everybody like basically left. Not everybody, there's some people who stayed in North Carolina, but there was a lot of native / black folks, however you want to call them, back then that migrated to certain places. Like, I know my family migrated to New York and some people went somewhere else. But to see Mr. Freeman so welcoming to let us on his beach, and he was telling us stories about things that happened back in the day. And we used to own, native people used to own a lot of land. And like my family, there's still land in North Carolina that my family owns. And it's pretty hard to find like the old, I have the address and everything, but today's maps and back in the day's maps, it's difficult. But there are people still that own land there, having a hard time getting it back. And he was telling stories of how some of the land was sold off. Like an example, he was saying someone, I don't know if it was his family member or somebody, they sold the land off to the white man. I hate to say that, but the white man, they wanted to build a railroad in the area, and they told him that if you let us build a railroad here, you and your people could get free rides. So that's how some of the land was sold off, like just being tricked like that. But for like listening to his stories and saying how at one point like black people, Native people in the area own like casinos, Ferris wheels, and all that stuff, and how it just kind of withered away, but there's still remnants of that in the area. It was pretty interesting to hear and listen to, and I could only record so much because every time he spoke, the tides kept getting stronger and stronger. And I don't know if any of you who are watching are like spiritual or whatever, like you don't have to believe it or not, but I thought I was the only one. Like every time when I pressed my phone to start recording him, the tides just kept getting stronger and stronger every time he started speaking. And it was to a point where I was just like, you know what, I'm not even going to record. I'm just going to sit back and listen, which was the initial plan. But he was really saying some good stuff, and I was like, I got to get this on recording. But when somebody else pointed out that every time Mr. Freeman spoke, the tides just kept getting stronger and stronger, I was like, I thought I was the only one that noticed that. So it was just so interesting overall being around certain elders, because the energy was just so different. Hearing them speak, hearing them talk about the past. And he even mentioned how back in the day they had like their own, they used to do like their own like Indian rain dance or something like that. And he also spoke about, another thing I found interesting was the Skarure family. I think he's cousins with someone in the Skarure family. And I'm saying this because they're like also related to somewhere down the line, because you know the family tree stretches. Somewhere down the line they're like related to Tupac on his mother's side, because they're from those areas too. So just hearing how all these families connect back together was just, I was just shocked, because first of all, I was shocked that he was very welcoming, letting us on his beach and all that, and all the stories that he was telling, and just his eyes were just glowing, and he was so happy. And sometimes you don't think that the little things can put a smile on somebody's face. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, because I'm from New York and people could be very standoffish, but down south, it's just like, it's just so different.
But anyhow, right here, right where we standing, there used to be an octopus. You know what an octopus? Anybody, you know, the same bull springs?
Yeah.
We had one here. We had some music off here. We had restaurants, hotels, gambling things. You ever heard of Beat My Road, Take My Gold? No? Nobody's ever heard of that?
What is
Beat My Road, Take My Gold.
Say that again.
Throw it in there. But anyhow, the white people would harass us when we go over to the beach, go through Carolina Beach. So we started ferrying our own people over there. We had a boat here, and we could take people from right there, from that pier, over to, you see those lights over there? And all that Spinnaker Point. And they would, then we'd walk to the marshland, over to Uncle Frank and that Lula's place, over there, Monte Carlo by the sea. You might see that on something. If you look on the internet, you'll see Monte Carlo by the sea. When I was a boy, we parked cars over there, and I was one of the attendants at the park. Have any of you guys ever heard of Joanne Chesapeake Asada?
Yeah, Asada Skarure, our cousin that's in Cuba.
Yes, that's my cousin. Her grandmother, and my grandfather, brothers and sisters. She's in Cuba now, right?
Right, she's in Cuba now because she's deemed the enemy of the state, of the nation.
Yeah, well, she and I and our other cousins parked cars, the kids, like these kids here. We parked cars for 50 cents a car. You know, that's what they got.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they have a nice place over there on the beach. Like I said, it was named Monte Carlo by the Sea.
Excuse me, just for a second, Elder. For all of you who knows Tupac, she's his godmother.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why they all have the same last name, Shakur. So Asada Shakur, our cousin, as he's saying, he gave her real name because this is where she's from.
Joanne is what that's her name. But anyhow, we had another cousin. Have you ever heard of General Joseph McNeil?
No.
He was the graduate.
I saw that I had on the sign.
Okay.
I've heard of
You did?
Those things were ours. And my granddaddy used to go in the woods and he would come back with roots from different kinds of trees. And he used one I can remember he did was the white oak bark. He used the slippery elm. And he used the prickly ash. And he put in the red shank, he called it. It was some kind of red root. He used that. And whatever was in your body, it would purify it. It would take it was a detox thing, basically. It would clear out all of that. And now we have, during the pandemic, I made medicines for people. And in 3 days, their COVID symptoms had disappeared. And some people laughed at me. They called me a root doctor. They called me witch. They're doing witchcraft and stuff. But I don't care. I have to do what the Great Spirit needs me to do. So I made medicine for these people. They needed me, and I took care of them. But at the table over there,
another person that I want to talk about in this video real quick is one of the elders in the tribe. She's super shy, but she's so spiritual. And I only recorded a little bit of her during the harvest gathering because I know that she's shy. But I want to talk about her because you don't come across too many people like this. And I'm gonna start off when I first met her. She sat right next to me. First of all, she just kept calling me she kept saying that I was really beautiful and all that. And I get shy when people do that. But then she started reading me and telling things that she knows of me, like my life story. And I only came across maybe like 2 people in my life that was able to do that and who are really legit. And she almost made me want to cry. And I don't cry, but she just read me just very well. And there was another situation where we was all gathered in like a circle. And there was this, now this is something small, but for those who are really spiritual, I know you'll get it. But we was in a circle and there was like this bumblebee that just started floating near us, just right in the middle, wasn't going nowhere. And you know, she was, you know, talking to the bumblebee or whatever, like stuff like that. And you know, after a while, this bumblebee was still there. It was like 10-15 minutes gone by and it's just still in the middle of us. And I'm like trying to back up a little bit just in case it doesn't sting me or whatever. But at one point, she was just like, all right, you came and visit, go on about your day. And then she just went like this. And the bumblebee just went in the direction of her hands and just floated, like just flew away and never came back. And I was just like, huh, that was interesting. Like I said, that may be superstitious or maybe something so small to y'all, but the ones who are like really spiritual and know like the connection with everything and nature and whatnot, I'm pretty much sure y'all get it. And just being around that, you know, the reason why I'm mentioning this too is because I don't really talk about myself that much on this channel, but I am one of those people who are like really spiritual. And it's hard to come across somebody who is spiritual as well, and not only that, like genuinely spiritual, because you have people that's in the spiritual community who are in the spiritual community for all the wrong reasons. Like majority of the women that you see that are like spiritual with their crystals and whatnot, the only reason why they got into it was because to get back at an ex or something, you know, doing that voodoo hoodoo stuff. But there's some people who are just ever since they was born, just had like a different vibe to them and just connected. So it's very hard to come across those types. And Betty is one of those types. There's an example I'm going to give, and then, yeah, I don't want to go too much into it. So after she read me like a freaking open book, I was telling her a few months ago, back in December, I was having like back-to-back dreams of this person that I know. For the past, like, I think it was like 4 nights, I had a dream of her coming to me crying. She was just like super upset and very distressed and everything. And I couldn't figure out why. And I think like the 4th night, I jumped out of my sleep because it just kept happening back to back, and it was just messing up my sleep. So, and I haven't seen her in a while. So for her to pop up in my dreams, I'm like, what's going on? And then later on that week, I've had heard that she had to get an abortion. And when I finally saw her, I told her that I had, you know, certain dreams about her, and I didn't tell her that I knew what happened. I didn't want her to know that people were like telling her business. But I was like, you know, whenever you want to talk to me, and whenever you're ready to feel like you want to talk to me about some things, you know, I'm always here. And, you know, she looked at me. She made a slight joke of me being, I forgot what the word she used. I don't know, some type of spiritual joke. But I was on point because she really, around the time that I had those dreams, it was right around the time that she had an abortion. And I was telling Betty this, and she was giving me some advice, and she was telling me what that was about and why I have dreams like that from time to time and stuff like that. But the point is like you barely come across people like that, and to be around an elder who's just very connected, the energy was just different. The vibe, my whole time being down in North Carolina, the past few days was just very shocking and very eye-opening. This is part 1 of my experience being down in North Carolina, and I had to do a separate video just for the elders. Like people around my age, younger, and even a little bit older, like some people take the elders for granted. And I don't think that's wise to do. Like, just because they're old now doesn't mean that they don't have tons of wisdom to share. Just because they're from another era doesn't mean that they don't have tons of wisdom to share. And yeah, so that's all I got for this video.